Sabre. 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 Sabre.
Well, dear friends of Imagine Heritage, I would like to welcome you at one more VidCast episode about modern heritage voices and important personalities on the context of the European cultural heritage. Today, I have the honor, and it's very important also personally for me to have the opportunity for a great conversation with Professor Marco Senaldi, who is a philosopher, curator, and contemporary art theorist, an expert on our topic about the Italian Neoavanguardia, the heritage of Neoavanguardia in 20th century, and how can we measure its impact today. Professor Senaldi has taught at various academic institutions, including the University of Milan, Bicocca, in Milano, in Modena. He teaches media theory method at the Accademia di Brera in Milano, and since 2023, as an artistic director of the Libera Accademia di Belle Arti Lab a Brescia e Trentino. He has curated international exhibitions, including Critical Quest, Cover Theory, Il Marmo e Celluloid, Fuori Fuoco, Visioni Video, and he has published numerous essays comparing philosophy, cinema, and art, including In Joy, Il Godimento Estetica, Doppio Sguardo, Cinema e Arte Contemporanea, Arte Televisione, Dandy Warhol al Grande Fratello, Definitely Unfinished, Philosophy on Contemporary Art, Obversion, Media and Disidentity, and recently Sub, The Science of Art, and in French translation too. At the same time, he's a television author of cultural programs for different channels in Italy, Canale 5, Italia 1, Rai 3, and from 2019 he created with Alessandra Galletta the serial program Genio and Srecola Pezza, Art and History in Italy for Rai Story. So, dear Marco, welcome to this VidCast series for Imagine Heritage. The stage is yours. You can share with us a few things about your important contribution in not only the Italian, but also in the European art scene. And then we can start our discussion about this fantastic topic for the Italian avant-garde.
Thank you, Spyridon. It's extremely interesting. I am honored, me myself, to participate in this video discussion. And now, when I read the list of questions you supposed to me, basically the relationship from Futurism, the first Italian avant-garde, historical avant-garde, and in general the first avant-garde, historical avant-garde in Europe, and the neo-avant-garde. I was personally involved because, you know, I'm born in the 60s, and in the 70s, when I was young, when I was a teenager, I was already interested in such topics, to the point that recently I rediscovered in my library the idea to republish a text from a very small-known Italian futurist, Nelson Morpurgo. The name was Nelson Morpurgo. Il fuoco delle piramidi, Pyramids Fire. It was a selection of parolibere, tavole parolibere. And when I was a teenager, and we would like to republish this stuff. I don't know what my son, he's 20 now, and is completely in another mood now. So it was bizarre for a teenager in the 70s to be interested in such stuff. But there is an explanation. So because the link for us young critics or artists even, or poets, towards the futuristic age, the futuristic energy, and the futuristic literature, especially towards the parole libere futurist, and the wireless imagination. That term, you may find this term in the Manifesto Tecnico della Letteratura Futurista, 1912. The wireless imagination for us was a strong invitation, an enormously relevant ideas to go on in this direction. And yes, I remember, for instance, in 1972, the Italian poet Luigi Ballerini, who is a poet and also a critic, Luigi Ballerini, in Galleria Arte Moderna in Turin, where now I'm a teacher in the Academy of Turin, curated a show, an exhibition, exactly entitled 1912-1972, Scrittura Visuale Italiana, that is Italian visual writings. And he linked exactly the parole libere futuriste with the concrete poetry, visual poetry, Gruppo 70, and so on and so on and so on. So this link is extremely, it was extremely important. But there was a small problem, Spyridon. We don't forget this. In the 70s in Italy, there was more or less a silent war, a silent civil war, as in Greece, more or less, between left, right, and the rightist party, the neo-fascist. And so the problem was that we loved futurism, but futurism was compromised with fascism. So I remember distinctly this struggle inside us, because we were fascinated by tavole parole libere, futurist ideas, and so on and so on and so on. But a lot of writers, a lot of intellectuals in Italy, I don't know that I don't dare to say that they refused futurism completely, but it doesn't fit exactly with their ideas, ideological position in that time. It was a time of very, very an horrible clash inside our society in Italy at that time. You know, in 1972, you should know that in Italy, they tried to the army and the neo-fascist tried to a golpe as in Athens in 1967. So that was the situation. It was very, very. It is bizarre to talk about these items now in 20th century, but we should recall this atmosphere, this situation, this political situation.
Dear Marco, from this point of view, do you believe that there were some personalities during the 60s that helped this bridging between Futurism and Neoavanguardia? I have in my mind, I don't know if it's a right example, Edoardo Sanguinetti or Balestrini, more famous, but maybe there are more. But do you believe that certain works and certain persons from 60s and 70s helped to, this bridging between Futurism and Neoavanguardia? How, I mean, did you feel this connection? Who created this connection?
But I think the people you mentioned right now, that is Edoardo Sanguinetti, especially Balestrini, because Nanni Balestrini was in fact politically situated on the extreme left, but they recognized the enormous importance for us, also in terms of liberation, of freedom from the constraints of syntax, of forms, and so on and so on. No? Another personality I may mention is Carlo Belloli, for instance. Carlo Belloli was a sort of trade union between the latest futurists of the 30s, of the 40s, also to the neo-avant-garde of the 60s. No, in between there was the war, but he was very important. And in general, visual poetry, Italian visual poetry was, I think, strongly indebted with the Tavole Parolibre. But you know, that's a point we may talk about later. But we should not forget that also Futurism was, in my opinion, a little bit misunderstood in this sense. For instance, I think one of the best interpreter of Futurism was not an Italian, was Marshall McLuhan. Because Marshall McLuhan, yes, he understood perfectly the revolution, anti-typographic revolution, the post-typographic revolution of Tavole Parolibre. In Italy, it takes a perspective slightly different. And very recently, in 2009, the centennial, no, the ceremony of centennial of celebration of the Manifesto Futurista 1999. I heard the Futurism was reduced to a sort of, antique, an old divertissement, but it was not absolutely this. It was an enormous, really strong, energetic movement, and when we were young, for us, it was how I've not the words to explain to you this point. We were completely fascinated as teenagers from the energy of the futuristic ideas, and
it's reasonable. What I wanted to discuss is that maybe in Italy this strong tradition, for example, of neorealismo and this kind of social realism in cinema, in literature, with fantastic and great authors and of course creators. It was at the same time for you a kind of challenge to overcome and to go beyond this frame of this kind of tradition. Is this true that the neorealism was something that you feeling that you wanted to overcome, to supersede it?
Spyridon, you are actually in this moment. My heart is bleeding because you open a wound who now we count back me to my youth, really. because I was involved in the left-wing extra parliamentary left in Italy. It was Democrazia Proletaria, Movimento Studentesco, student movement. But there was a big problem for me because I was at that age, I was a teenager, basically. But I was already involved in aesthetical issues, and I remember they were politically, correct. Their ideas was mine ideas, but there was a problem about aesthetics because I remember distinctly. I found the review few weeks ago in my library. They published a review entitled Realismo, because left was ideologically linked to social realism, and that was for us. We were linked to Futurism, Lucio Fontana, abstract art, Oberto, visual poetry, and so on and so on and so on. And for us, realism was something of the 19th century. I mean, what was good in Courbet was good.
Yes.
It doesn't fit with the situation that we were living now. But this was an enormous debate and clash between us. At the end, I say farewell to politics, and I decided to devote me to media and art theory and aesthetics. My story is the story of more or less. I don't want to say Italy in general, but that was the debate at the time.
So, do you think, for example, that the Gruppo 63 succeed in creating a new trend, a new literature, for example, beyond neorealism, and at the same time support visual writing and new avant-gardes?
So in 1975, I was 15, and I don't know how, but I take a train and I go to meet Adriano Spatola, who was one of the younger participants of the Gruppo 63, with Sanguinetti, Umberto Eco, Nanni Balestrini, and so on, and many others. And Gruppo 63 was enormously important in this disruption, in opening a perspective really different from the realismo socialista or the realism in general. It was in general, yes. It holds an enormous role in this way, and their literary production was equally important, not at the same level, I mean, but some novel from Edoardo Sanguinetti, Capriccio Italiano, or Tristano by Nanni Balestrini. Tristano was very, very strong for us, or the novel by Adriano Spatola. They also, we should remember the figure of Carlo Feltrinelli, who was, Gian Giacomo Feltrinelli. Carlo is a son, actually. Gian Giacomo Feltrinelli, who was this man, very, very rich, enormously rich, but politically left-oriented, who helped these very young intellectuals and writers in publish their production. That was the difference, because to be published by a very important editor as Feltrinelli in Italy was the difference. No? So Tristano, I remember Tristano. Also Il Grande Angolo by Giulia Nicolai, the wife, the companion of Adriano Spatola. Ecco, I met Adriano Spatola and Giulia Nicolai exactly in 1975, exactly to understand better this situation. But the Gruppo 63 was at our back at the time. It remounted 10 years earlier, 10 years before. But the evolution of the Gruppo 63 is a problem for me, is questionable for me. But
okay, that's very interesting. Yes. I don't know if could be related with my question about how the Neoavanguardia related with this structuralism of this period. I mean, Umberto Eco actually, or Angelo Guglielmi. I have the impression that it was a distinct phenomenon or separated somehow. I mean, I can't classify Umberto Eco on Neoavanguardia, but you are the
exactly.
you are the master
Exactly.
to say more, because
exactly.
It's many people know the Eco, from all these novel and. But at the same time, the Neoavanguardia, how criticizes structuralism, etc. It's something very interesting.
Yes, that's very interesting because notwithstanding the premises so revolutionary in a sense, and the extraordinary first novels we mentioned right now, the intellectual as Eco, for instance, take Eco, the big expression of Italian intellectuals. I'm dubious about this figure. I know I'm completely come si dice, out, not in the usual interpretation, but in my idea, the best of Umberto Eco is the minor Eco. For instance, Diario Minimo, which is an anthology of short text, is very, very, very fresh. When Eco imported semiotics from substantially from Peirce, from USA, Charles Sanders Peirce, and translated semiotics into a sort of discipline, which, by the way, now in Italy, semiotics are, in my opinion, are like panda in on the way of extinction. But yes, because they try to transform an hermeneutic technique into a discipline. But this part of Eco include the numerous novels he wrote, starting from Il nome della rosa, express a way of Eco which is not, which is substantially an expression of power, of academic power, and not only academic. I'm telling this because I knew Eco. I met him several times, so I'm talking about something very specific. The same goes for Angelo Guglielmi, but Guglielmi, we should remember that Guglielmi, the best of Angelo Guglielmi was when he became the director of Rai 3, the channel 3 of Italian television. That's very important because you first mentioned, and I collaborated with Rai, that's true. And in a way, this was possible because Angelo Guglielmi transformed this channel into a cultural channel. Just to mention one thing, he let the broadcast of Blob by Enrico Ghezzi. Blob is a sort of collage with televisual materials, exactly in the style of Guy Debord, La Société du Spectacle.
Oh, okay.
Who was, you know, who was a book, but also a film, a movie, no?
Of course.
Made by found footage, exactly. The same Debord made with found footage and movie materials, the same did years after Enrico Ghezzi in Blob with the televisual material. But this was possible thanks to Angelo Guglielmi. So Angelo Guglielmi interpreted the cultural power, in my opinion, in the right dimension, so to open the way to experimentation. I'm not sure we may say the same thing for Umberto Eco.
Okay,
that's my.
It's very interesting, and now it's very interesting inside. Now that you mentioned about Guy Debord, I would like to ask you, how can we frame the Neoavanguardia in the European context of 60s and 70s? I mean, maybe the influences or relationships of these groups and movements of Italy, of artistic Italy with other avant-garde, like, I don't know, Situationismo or the abstract art or Actionismo in Austria. How did you experience this European context of these avant-gardes?
That for me is extremely interesting because actually I'm exactly working about this point and especially about the birth of situationism, which is Spyridon at the end, the last neo-avant-garde, most important. I suppose that there is no a contemporary art exhibition catalog without a mention of Guy Debord, Situationismo, and so on. But you should know, and we all should not forget, that Situationismo was born in Italy, not in Paris.
Oh,
yes,
that's a great notice. Tell me about it.
That's a great news. Because in 1957, in Cosio da Roscia, which is a very small town in Liguria, two Italians, Piero Simondo and above all Giuseppe Pinot Galizio.
Galizio.
You know Pinot Galizio because Pinot Galizio, in the years before, was the founder of Bauhaus Imaginiste, a sort of Bauhaus, but founded not on the functionalism, but on the imagination. They invited the board, who was at that time Lettrist.
It's true.
The movement before.
Yes.
And I'm not actually sure, but you know, Piero Simondo did a thesis, a philosophical thesis in Turin with the famous Italian philosopher Abbagnano. about the analysis situ, which is a sort of post-geometrical ideas by Henri Poincaré, a scientist, a French scientist. Analysis situ, situ actionismus. So I suppose that the word, the ideas, and the movement was ours. Was it?
Yeah, it's a great.
No, that's great, Spyridon, but the scandal is that you may take now. We could search in our libraries, in the bookshelf, and so on, and all the books, and they were written, a lot of books about history of situationismus, history of Guy Debord, Parisian avant-garde, and so on, so on, so on. No one mentioned sometimes Pino Gallizio, but never Piero Simondo.
Yes,
it is for me. I can't stand. I would like to be. I would. Come si dice? Voglio un po' di giustizia. I want justice in this respect.
you are right, and it's true. I remember the last. I love this kind of search, and also the roots of situationism from Isidore Isule, Treisman, etc. And I remember the last month I found a few information about Ansgar Jorn, the other big figure of situationism, and he had a casa in Italy, if I'm not wrong, and Ansgar
Exactly.
Jorn today. Yes. So Italy was very important for the development of this movement.
Yes, in fact, in the question you asked me about Genoese, Ligure situation.
Genoese circles, yes.
Yes, there is a connection. Ansgar Jorn in Albisola. In Albisola, there was also an old master of futurist ceramics. That is Tullio d'Albisola, a friend of Lucio Fontana, and then a friend also of Piero Manzoni, who was involved with Ramsay, who was one of the founders of situationism, along with the board. So the things are more complex, but for sure, I may say that Italy was connected in the European context. I remember also just a personal souvenir of my youth. I don't want to look as an old man remembering more or less. When I met for the first time Adriano Spato and Giulia Nicolai at that time, mid-70s, I remember they were very linked with a lot of people all over the world in times where there was basically only mail, because no email, no internet, no nothing. But they were in contact with John Cage, John Giorno, Paul Vangelisti, a lot of also the Brazilian concretist poetry, also Max Benz, another figure very important, aesthetician and also visual poet, he himself. There was a network, an international network, very strong, very interesting at the time.
Great. And just before we proceed to more, I can say, personal perspectives about this Neoavanguardia and its influence and impact today, I would like to share a few things about, I think, a common law that has to do with Martino Oberto and his role and his significant independence in this environment.
Yes, independent, completely. No, I was very struck by the fact that you, now from Greece, you knew Martino Oberto, because in Italy also his how to say, Spyridon, overlooked, is it correct?
Yes.
Is
Underestimated.
nearly forgotten.
Mm.
Underestimated completely. On the contrary, I think his perspective was very interesting. The Ana Filosofia, so a lot of things with an energy comparable to that of the board, because the Ana Filosofia is a complete set of ideas. And don't forget that you mentioned my book about Marcel Duchamp. Marcel Duchamp named himself un artiste. Je suis pas un non-artiste, je suis un artiste, c'est-à-dire, this means I'm not a non-artist, because non is a very philosophical but interesting point, no, Spyridon. Ana Filosofia means not to be against something, against poetry, against literature, against politics, but to a third way, no? Ana is different from not. That's extremely interesting. In fact, Oberto produced a lot of poetry, literature, and so on, philosophy also. That's a very, this fits very with our Italian vision, in my opinion. As Italian, or better, as European in the true sense of the word. A lot of people actually talks about West, the West. I don't know what is the West. There is a West with not my West. The West of empiricism, the West of liberalism, the West of capitalism, the West of Anglo-Saxon ideology. That's not my West, definitively. And you may understand perfectly what I'm thinking.
Yes.
My West, our West, is the West of Ana Filosofia, that is a new form of philosophy, a new form of art, which is sometimes against as visual poetry, which is against poetry, but it's by the way, it continues to be a form of literature and so on. So Oberto is in the line of paroliberismo, parolibere futuriste. It's in the line of visual poetry. Anzi, thinking about Ana Filosofia, I think it's very original. It has a specificity.
And I think that also it's a great reference, your distinction about which kind of West we love or which kind of West we support. Because through the Neoavanguardia, it was very fascinating, this effort at the same time to take things from analytic philosophy, from Wittgenstein, and the Circle of Vienna, and mixing with the futurist tradition, and at the same time this Italian approach. How can I say, this traditional Renaissance Mediterranean feeling about the life, about the democracy inside the humanism, all the time open horizons, open imagination. And it's fantastic, this blending of Neoavanguardia, that even the empiricism try to take something and engineering with different ways. I mean, even the poetry of Sanguinetti is at the edge of the language, or another figure I love, Emilio Villa, the poet. Yes, that even receive biblical and fantastic, extraordinary masterpieces. All these people created masterpieces.
Spyridon, I don't know if you know that Emilio Villa, in my opinion, one of the bigger figure of Italian literature, but now he's rediscovered strongly, very interesting. They are publishing the oeuvre complete, the works, poetical works. But usually people forget that Emilio Villa was also a translator, and he translated, I don't know if you know, the Odyssey.
Yeah.
But his translation is a masterpiece, because in Italy, this enormous masterpiece, Iliad and Odyssey, were translated usually by poets, very pompous, very with rims, with a lot of literature and so on. His translation, the translation of Emilio Villa, is something right now extremely modern, but very coherent with the original Greek text, because he was a great professor student of Greek, of Hebrew, and many languages, many antique languages.
Yeah, it's
Villa is extremely important.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
Villa could be today could be a personality to which young Italian poets and artists should have in mind for the future.
Yeah. So, Marco, which do you believe is the main impact of these neo-avant-garde movements in the modern Italian and European art scene? For example, do you believe also they had a strong impact on design, on generally the visual techniques, and I mean, except of the language? But for you, which is the top of the impacts of neo-avant-garde?
Today, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, yes, even today that we can discover traces from this period.
But it's some personalities have been rediscovered right now as Emilio Villa. Some others, they were able to gain a level as recognized artists, as for instance Emilio Isgro. Right now he's considered an artist, because there is at this point a small but big issue. That is the fact that the market, which is important at the end, is not at ease in recognizing some figures of visual poets as artists. So there is a slight difference, but alas, very strong. Also in the evaluation of artworks. For instance, beauty. I love her, Ketty La Rocca. Ketty La Rocca was an artist, but she died in the 70s. I don't remember exactly. Now her work is subject to a revision and rediscovering. But prices are very, very low because are considered as poetry, visual poetry, photos with writing and so on. And that a little but big problem because they are not considered as, for instance, conceptual artists, which are art. This is a problem which trace back to the origins in the 70s. I remember this debate also among us young critics and so on. But now I think the best is when a young artist come si dice, prende il testimone, take in his hand the legacy of this revolutionary spirit and tries to experiment. This is the point. It's not a link. I mean, on basis of style of no.
It's the spirit.
The spirit. Just an example.
Mm-hmm.
Just an example, not so renowned, but very interesting. Because the protagonist is a Genoese artist, so ancora Genoa. In 2001, exactly shortly before the 9/11, Giancarlo Politi, the former director of Flash Art, organized in Tirana, Albania, the Biennial of Tirana. Okay. This friend of mine, an artist at that time, we are speaking of 20 years ago, doesn't exist a smartphone, but email, yes, we're working. And he sent fake emails to Giancarlo Politi, signing as Oliviero Toscani. But Oliviero Toscani was absent completely, was out of this. It was a hoax, and I think on Wikipedia there is the right history, the Tirana hoax, because he faked 4 artists. He was an artist, but he doesn't use. He invented the pseudonym, and but it was a very important biennial. There was among the critics there was Massimiliano Gioni, there was Dan Cameron, so the best of that time, 25 years ago, and the fact was that the contemporary art establishment was completely fell in this hoax, in this joke, and this is the spirit of not just the provocation, but also really of the idea to put on discussion what is exactly art. No, I would like to quote this quote. I signed this quote from 1912, Spyridon, from 1912, Manifesto Tecnico della Letteratura Futurista. They say, Marinetti wrote, "Sputiamo spite, let's do spite on the altar of art." That's fantastic, in my opinion. No? Cioè, go against art to make art, in order to make art. That's the point. That's Merda d'Artista by Manzoni. This is the spirit of the avant-garde at that time, in my opinion, today.
It's a great reference and descriptions, I would like to finish this beautiful discussion with a question about how today, how do you place today? I mean, just because of the whole technology, artificial intelligence, crypto, you know, the importance to be avant-garde in this frame today. Many people support that we don't need avant-garde today because already this role is something that substituted from technology evolution. Which is your opinion, Martin?
But right now I'm working on a project on a platform called Today is Not Today, devoted to the production of virtual reality experiences with the headset Oculus, and we are trying to recreate some masterpieces by Italian artists, never realized or just projected. For instance, Il Tempio, the Temple by Vincenzo Agnetti, another great figure in this context, and Paolo Scheggi. And The Labyrinth by Piero Manzoni, exactly. The Labyrinth was, for instance, just an idea Piero Manzoni conceived in the 1960s, I don't remember. A psychological labyrinth. The protagonist was the spectator. This is fantastic idea, but in the 60s it was not possible to realize it, and then Manzoni dies in 1963. So he let just the idea. So we tried to recreate this experience in a virtual form, in a virtual place, and that for me is a form of I don't dare to refer to the avant-garde, but is an idea to employ, to use the technology not just as the simple tools to recreate a gallery or a museum space and so on, because these spaces already exist, so there is not basically the necessity, but the spaces are for the imagination. So we come back, Spyridon, to the other fantastic quote from Marinetti, the wireless imagination. Because immaginazione senza fili, I translate it wireless imagination. Wow, that's fantastic. That's very contemporary, no?
Yeah.
Over a century ago. That's fantastic. So the imagination is wireless, definitively, is boundless, is this is fantastic space. And actually, I'm trying to, I'm writing an essay about the philosophy of metaverse, of virtual reality, virtual space. These are, in my opinion, the odds, scommesse, of our time, of our age, no? To confront with, not just to, also for artificial intelligence. I've in 2023, I have a small debate with Luciano Floridi, a professor from Oxford, who wrote extensively about artificial intelligence and related matters. But I feel, Spyridon, I heard a pessimistic, a sort of, a sort of fear. But for me, it has no sense. It's not sensical. We are on the verge, on the edge of an enormous changes, also in the way to think, to make art, to write. I'm convinced that if artificial intelligence, I feed artificial intelligence with all my book you mentioned before, and she it, I don't know, she would be able to write another book for me. I'm glad. It's fantastic. It's over. It's over.
Yeah.
I don't waste a lot of time. No, I'm joking, but not. No. Okay, the job is done. Okay, let's do philosophy. This debate is, in my intention, the issue. The book, okay, there is artificial intelligence. Okay, which is the problem? You fear to lose your intellectual role, but
the authority.
what's the point? Yes. We should go on with imagination, wireless imagination, and for this is the reason why I in fact, you mentioned I worked in television, because also television was and is a beautiful form of language to explain what. For instance, think about a performance or a form of art, ephemera. A picture, a photo is not enough because it's static. I remember when I worked, when I served for Italian TV, we did a reportage about Venice Biennale, for instance, Art Biennale, and it was the right language at that time. I'm referring 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And now you have metaverse, you have virtual reality, other form of experience. In my opinion, they are very promising technology. I have no fear about it.
I totally agree with you. I would like at this point to thank you for this fantastic discussion. I know that the time is not enough if we want to delve and dive in on these issues, but we are here, and of course, also together we have many things to do and organize. And for one more time, it was an honor.
Spyridon, we may arrange a sort of Netflix, cultural Netflix, a series.
Yes. It's a fantastic idea. And, we should work and plan on
just the first prima puntata.
Great, thanks again, Martino.
Ma anzi, nella intenzione, nella inclinazione al sapere. Io ho usato un bisturi mettendo la barra tra la prima parte della parola filo/Sofia. Questo significa tener conto dell'atteggiamento verso il sapere più che al sapere tout court, in quanto certi argomenti tipo bomba atomica derivano dal sapere. La mia bomba atomica è spensare. Io